election year, which is bound to bring some changes to the marketplace. There is so much speculation all around the world, I feel like, not just the US and not just in Austin, about what's going to happen. So today we are going to be sharing our predictions and our thoughts for where the markets are headed and what what we can expect. Are you guys ready?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Great. So
I know
let's, I
we've got
guess,
these.
hmm?
I was gonna say I'm just sitting here cheesing. Like there's a lot to talk about.
There is a lot to talk about. A lot to talk about. I guess, Ian, I feel like you look the most eager. What's the first thing on your mind?
Okay. Let me start by saying, obviously, this is real estate, and we're focused on Austin, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
However, a lot of the way the world thinks is based on the actions that happen in the United States and people in general. Because it's not just Americans that are buying houses in America. That's a whole part of the conversation. People in general are paying attention, and there are some people that are excited for what's to come, and there are some people that are afraid of what's to come. And so all of that becomes part of the conversation. It's like, who is excited? Who is afraid? Where do they live? Where do they want to live? Where are they investing their money, and how does that impact Austin, Texas real estate? Right? Like that's a big part of the conversation when evaluating what we would predict.
Yeah, because I think Austin in itself has been an anomaly compared to a lot of things going on in the country, and it's its own insulated market. And when I hear realtors in different areas, say things are picking up, it's just a little different. It's a little different wherever you're at, and I think Austin has its own lull. I think in the past couple of years, not, I mean, nationally, I think there's a lull, but we specifically had our own price increases that were also astronomical.
Mm-hmm.
See, you say there's a lull. I was teaching a class in Chicago like a week or two ago, maybe a week and a half ago. Drove there from Texas, by the way, which is a
Yeah,
whole
I
nother
saw that.
conversation. But
That is a whole.
that it was very cold. The real feel was -30. Oh yeah.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
nice. Do
So
you
anyway,
miss it?
teaching this class, listening to all these realtors talk about how crazy the market is in Chicago blew my mind. I was like, I left there because for many reasons. Uh, but that's one of those where you're like, the market's popping in Chicago. They're where Austin was back in 2021.
Yeah.
Isn't that
Yeah,
strange?
I've heard that too. Definitely. So it's like I think a couple things come into play. Do you know what? Like, I'm just curious. Do you know what the pricing is like in Chicago?
Oh,
Y-
it's higher than Austin. It's higher than Austin,
Let's see.
but there's so much more sprawling land that I think the opportunities are different. So I can't give you a direct answer. I want to say that we were talking about a particular condo that was like 750,
Mm-hmm.
for a smaller 1,000 square foot condo. I want to say
Mm-hmm.
that's what it was, but I don't have any real numbers.
I got some AI data.
Let's see.
Pull it.
Google AI says the median home price in Chicago, Illinois in December 2024 was between 335 and 350,000.
Okay.
See, but that's home price. And here's the problem with that. When you're looking at Austin, we're talking about, a couple miles wide. When you're talking about Chicago and comparing it to Austin, that's like Gerald. That's like Salado.
So you're saying this is great? Yeah, this is probably saying greater Chicago.
Great. Well, that's before you get to the suburbs. I'm saying I don't know what we're actually comparing. It's apples to oranges, right? Austin,
I'm sure it's greater Chicago area. I don't know if
maybe
Chicago proper would be 300s.
that's what I mean. That's what
Yeah.
and then this is the median. Are most houses single family homes there? No, but they do have a lot.
Um, they do have a lot of. I'm looking on Realtor.com. I'm going to share my screen with
What are we
y'all.
getting?
I'm
Just
generally thinking it's more affordable than the greater Austin area.
yeah, for sure it is. For sure. I recently had some clients move to Chicago, and they said it was a lot
What
cheaper.
I
But they
think it
also
depends on
have,
where
like,
you are.
older houses too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, some
So
of those
I'm
are really old.
so I
Like
am
1,200, look, 1,200 square feet for a 3-bed, 2.5 bath, and it's a foreclosure.
okay.
But then the
So
one
this
right next to it, 21 million. Okay.
well, okay. So in the north, these are different markets. I don't want to get too far down a rabbit hole because we totally could with this. But in the
Oh yeah.
north, we know that property is a lot older. For instance, in the Twin Cities
Mhm.
where my mom lives, everything was built. The home that my best friend grew up in was built in 1910. And that was normal. And so I think the same thing goes here for anywhere in Illinois. You can find things that are super old. What year is this? It doesn't say. If I had to guess, I would say this is from the 60s. This one probably too. Okay, so yeah, they are the foreclosures 160. The home that is not a foreclosure, 270. We'll call it 1,200 square feet. And for this search, I just put Chicago proper. So I'm not
Mm.
familiar with it. You are, so you would be able to tell different neighborhoods.
Living there
But
is
here
different
we
than understanding the real estate there.
for sure, for sure. And obviously these like brownstone, really nice looking, very central multifamily spaces are going to be a lot more. But it looks like these single family homes are, I mean, 330 for that. Yeah, under 400. So, I mean, there's quite a bit of a range. But I think a couple things come into play. One, property values, of course, and then the
Mhm.
fact that people have lower property taxes in Austin. Oh, that's so cute. No, not so much anymore. In Austin, if somebody's financing a home, like 1/3 of that mortgage payment is going to be made up of property taxes versus, let's say, like Illinois here, property taxes are significantly cheaper. Again, Minnesota, I use that because I know that property taxes are like 1%. So you're talking about $3,500, $4,000 a year for property taxes
That's
versus
because
12.
the state income tax is really high.
That's the thing too. Yeah, that's another
Yeah.
thing. So, you know, there we go.
Speaking of, so this goes to this does go to real estate, but it's like a tangential thing, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. I was at the
Yeah.
grocery store. I don't buy my eggs. So when I went to the grocery store to buy some eggs, and I saw I want to say a dozen eggs, $14.
Which grocery store was that?
HEB.
Which one though?
Now, this was like the grass fed, pasture raised, blah, blah, blah. But
Mhm.
still, $14. Oh, that hurt my heart so bad. That had to do with like, I think the salmonella thing or something. Like there was some other reason. But just the fact that's the kind of stuff that when people are evaluating, do I buy a home? Eggs are this much, milk is this much, gas is this much, all falls into play. And it's going to be um, contingent upon where they are, right? So you have a lot of farmland, you have a lot of eggs nearby,
Yeah.
or you grow your
Yeah.
own or something. Anyway,
You said you
tangent.
don't buy your eggs. Do you have chickens?
No, my wife buys the my point. Yeah, my
Oh.
wife buys the eggs. I'm just saying, like, it's
Yes.
been a while since I just really wanted some eggs and we were out. And so I went and I was like, what?
Did you buy
When
them?
did that happen? It's like I rented a car once 6 months ago. And when you look at gas prices, because you don't pay attention. I mean, Daphne, you don't pay
I
attention to gas
do.
prices. And then all of a sudden you're like, how much is gas?
The
That
hell?
sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's very, very real. Very real. No, the egg thing is
Yeah.
crazy. We went to HEB the other day too. We always have eggs, but my boyfriend always likes to get more just because he loves eggs. And we saw the same thing. It was like 13, yeah, it was like almost $14 for some eggs. And we were like, now we'll have the canned tuna. Or we'll just
Yeah.
actually make some chicken, even though we don't feel like it. So yeah, no, for sure. For sure. Okay, so did you have another point that you wanted to talk about, Ian?
I want to get through the conversation. I have too much to talk about.
Yeah. Okay. So, a little thought, little backstory. The tariffs is one of the things that I think people are talking about with the Trump administration coming in. He was just inaugurated. We'll keep that. He was just inaugurated
Inaugurated.
last
Save
week. That
that.
was just last week. Yeah. So curious. Do you guys? I guess two questions. I really have three, but two questions to start. Do you think they will actually implement those tariffs? If so, when? Whoever wants to go.
I would say, I mean, this is what I remember before. I know a lot of people are like expecting I'm getting the feel people are expecting business to be better with Trump in office.
Definitely.
But from what I remember, the tariffs may have increased lumber from Canada, and that increased home prices along with the, incoming inflation and the demand and the low interest rates. Of course, there's a lot of things. And then,
Yeah.
especially what happened in 2020, that was an element of pricing that I remember asking a home builder that, and the home builder was like, "Yo, that's like a hardcore economics question. We're just like building houses right now. I don't know how the pricing's going with the tariffs." And that's one thing I remember. What are your thoughts on the tariffs, Ian?
There are a lot of things that we can produce in America, and we decided as a country or businesses have decided that it might be more cost effective to not produce them in America. I
Right.
don't have a I can't give a prediction on this because I'm not an economist, but I think there are some things that will highly benefit from it and others that will fall away. So a great example is steel, right? So we've got steel is a big one that we have to think about. I remember I watched the Uneducated Economist, and he talks about even the nails that are being used to build homes were low quality metal that were being imported in high volume, high droves to keep up with the demands of building houses. Well, so now if it costs way more to import, we might not use those nails. We might have some kind of American manufacturing steel, but just not just steel, but just anything that like that. But if the building materials increase in price and we still have this demand, what does that do for the prices of the houses in the United States where they have to build rapidly? In Austin, we're not in that situation today, but the interest rates have already dropped over the pardon me. Yesterday, the interest rates dropped a little bit. And if they do go down at all, which I'm not sure if they will, but if they do go down at all, now you're getting back into the situation that we were in during Trump's last administration, which was also inflated by the pandemic and the
Right.
way things were being run at that time. There's
Right.
so many variables in here.
A lot of variables.
It's not just like a three-dimensional, it's like an octahedron worth of dimensions. There's just so many different sides to it. I was talking to kind of what you were saying, JJ. Like I was talking to a builder rep the other day, and he actually brought it up. I think I knew this idea in the back of my mind, but it was just kind of dormant. But I had some clients ask, like, is this actually a good time to buy? And of course, everyone's like, oh, you're realtors, you're salespeople, you're always going to say it's a good time to buy. But the thing is, like, realistically, the sales rep, he brought up, just like you said, it's like, this house is this price right now. And if these tariffs come into play, which they may, we don't really know, but if they do, everything is going to go up at least by like 25%. Like the cost to build a home is going to be a lot more expensive. So I'm with you, Ian. I don't think interest rates are going to drop a whole bunch, right? We don't know. But like, even if they do drop a little bit, it's
Well, so there's some other things that are coming into play, which I want to touch on. We can revisit later, but if Social Security, that was a big part of the conversation, right? So let's say removing tax from Social Security. So people that are on Social Security, let's say, what is it? The silver tsunami, that actually may pause that silver tsunami where all these people that are on a fixed income that have these houses at an incredible interest rate may not need to move after all. Right? That's one. Then it was the tax on commission-based jobs like waiters. It was an example. That's another thing that affects a whole cohort of people, especially in like the Austin, Texas area. And
Are
how
you
does
referring
that
to
affect
his
their ability to
executive?
afford homes?
Are you talking about the executive
Yes.
orders and the new
Yes.
tax plans?
Yes.
So to
So
refresh,
again,
what was the policy?
please.
Waiters don't get taxed? What was it?
let's come back to this. I just want to throw those out there because we need to talk about them.
Yeah. Yeah, I know there's some
Right.
executive tax policies being
Well, it's
signed.
that, it's Social Security, it's uh the whole, now you have a lot of people that won't be US citizens, which sounds like, I mean, I say a lot of people that won't be US citizens. It's the people that come in and then they have a child in America, but if they're not American citizens, then that child doesn't necessarily end up getting citizenship. Like, I think Selena Gomez was crying like on social media to her millions of followers talking about this thing. And I'm sitting here like, okay, but how does that affect Austin housing? Like, I'm really trying to understand how that impact, the real world impact of that happening. I don't know, but that's the kind of stuff that I don't know that it's been thought through, because America used to be a place where we focused on improving the rights of people and the government was a small part of it. And now it's like the government is focusing on America being, I heard the word earlier, called a kleptocracy, where it's more, wealth, grab, capitalism, right? But as much as you can at the expense of your personal rights and freedoms. And I was like, oh, interesting.
So you mentioned something which made me remember something else. Okay, so we were talking about, basically we're talking about undocumented people, right? And it's like the
Yes.
term anchor baby, like apparently. So I actually hadn't heard that. Is that they're removing, if your parents are not American citizens or residents in some capacity and you're born here, you're not able to be a citizen? Or is that in talks? Like tell me a little bit more about that.
Oh, no. I believe that was an executive order. I don't know when it
Okay.
goes into effect, but that was and I believe that was an executive order. We'd have to pull up the list of
Mm.
executive orders that he passed over the last couple days.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Only because I know Trump has ties to Russia, and I know there's a lot of people, like wealthy families from Russia, that will come here and have their
His
child
family is
citizenship
an
in the
immigrant
country.
family.
Well, yeah, right, exactly. But
Come on.
yeah, so okay, so
Doesn't
I had
stop
more
them
thoughts on
from their
this.
policies.
So
Well, but there is a difference between immigrant family versus documented. Like, I hear that part of it. Obviously, that's a consideration as well.
Right.
But then it goes to, if you have money, can you now expedite the process?
So yes, I mean it's always been that way. So
Yeah.
there's rules set in place for folks that want to, wealthier folks in other parts of the world that want to become, I believe it's residents. I don't think they don't just give you a citizenship. That path to actual citizenship is very long and very complicated. But
Yes.
this particular, I don't know if it's a rule, it's an agreement. I don't know exactly what it's called, but basically it allows folks that want to be residents, legal residents of the US, to invest in some capacity, whether it be in a business or buying large sums of property, putting their money in the American economy. If done a particular way, they can get basically like a residency to be here legally.
Yeah,
That's
you
a
could
thing.
like buy
Okay.
a green card.
Kind of, yeah. Or unless you win like the green card lottery from whatever country you're coming from.
Right.
But the thing that I wanted to touch on is we were saying we've got undocumented residents that live here, and it's how is that going to affect Austin's housing? And the thing is, like in 2020, even before that, like
Right.
when did Trump went into office in 2016? Okay, so
2016, 2020. Yeah.
there were mass deportations then, and
Right.
that was people were talking about that a whole lot. And I remember very clearly in real estate, one of the points we kept talking about is like who's going to build these houses, because so many of these undocumented men are the ones building the houses. And
Yep.
like all of my friends are immigrants, and several of them are DACA or undocumented. And we talked about this, like are they, who literally is going to build these houses? And the thing is, it didn't have as much of an effect in Austin anyway as we thought it would.
Yep.
I would argue that, okay, so the super inflation times, the peak was what, 2022, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that means it was building
Yes.
prior to that. And that's what I was curious about. I was like, is it the tariffs? Is it the, illegal immigrant thing? So I'm at these new construction sites, like thinking, trying to talk to the on-site rep, but they're not an economist. They're like, we're just selling these. And I'm like, is it the immigration? Like, what's going on? What's going on with prices? So I just remember that, but economics is too dimensional to be like, this is going to happen again, just like the way
Yeah.
Trump was, there's way too many factors now, but I always felt like that drove something in the economy. It reminds me of, there's like a Dave Chappelle bit where he talks about, he's like, we're not trying to build iPhones. We don't need those iPhone building jobs here. We're trying to make them here so we could buy iPhones for $10,000. We're not trying to work that hard, and I just couldn't put my finger on it if like what exactly create, of course, again, like low interest rates, uh this migration to Texas, Austin Tech. There's a lot of stuff. So moving forward, it's hard to tell, but I just feel like there's still going to be an affordability issue.
It's super hard to
Have
tell.
you seen jobs? Like there are still a lot of places. Buc-ee's, for crying out loud. Buc-ee's was
Yeah.
paying like $30 an hour
Yep.
Really?
starting.
Yeah.
Now, oh yeah.
For like low
I was like,
level
as a
management.
cashier, $30 an hour. And then I was like, oh wait, I guess that is probably what a living wage would be these days.
Yeah.
But you'd
like
be living
it's
out
insane
there,
to think that. But
right?
you'd be living out there. But what ends up happening is, if you need an area to grow, that's actually a genius
Yeah.
concept, because Buc-ee's now has a loyal employee that wants to buy and build a house and start a family way away from the city. So they're never going to move until they're making more money. And they're not going to do that at Buc-ee's, because once they are, they'll realize they can't get what they want closer to the city.
You think
So
we got to
they're
tell
like, it's a
viewers?
perpetual cycle where they. What?
Yeah. I was curious if we need to tell viewers what Buc-ee's is.
Oh yeah. It's basically the mecca of gas stations in Texas, and now all across. They're building them all over the United States, but it is started in Texas. It grew in Texas, and it's like the Walmart of gas stations. Yeah, they're everywhere in the U.S. now.
Yeah.
Buc-ee's. Okay, I want to.
It's
see
just a great
photos.
stop.
Like and
the snacks and
so
everything.
Buc-ee's. I'm gonna get on a Tesla train for just a second. Buc-ee's is building their business kind of like Apple, Tesla, OpenAI, and they have a lot. They have a lot of verticals within their business. So you go to Buc-ee's, I'm gonna say 90% of their products are Buc-ee's branded, white label products. And so it started with these little beaver nuggets that are great, but now like you can go get pecans, you can go get t-shirts, you can go get like house stuff to hang in your house.
Bathing suits, cutting
pants,
boards.
bathing suits, all branded Buc-ee's, which keeps the money flowing through them, right? And so anyway, it's kind of a genius business model for them. And so that's one way they grow. And you also know that the products you get there are generally pretty good quality. And it's funny because I think the draw there was actually bathrooms. Like all their billboards were like, we have the cleanest bathrooms. Stop here.
I do appreciate,
because that's what people would care about when they're driving.
Thank you, Buc-ee's, for your bathrooms. Yes.
Thank you, Buc-ee's. So yeah, that's Buc-ee's.
Well, this is an indicator that there's would you call it suburban or rural areas of Texas? Because it's not like in the metropolitan. Rural. Okay, so this shows that the rural areas have economic strength.
Yes.
No. This shows that there are companies that see the value of paying their employees a certain amount to drown out the competition so that you want to be part of this company. Yes. That's the company's choice though, right? Where some of the laws would have been the company has to have a minimum or has to have an amount. That's what the labor laws are, right? But this is Buc-ee's just saying, I don't care what the labor laws are, what the minimum wage is. I want to pay my people this because then it's magnetic. It's a draw for so many people out in the rural areas. Because where else are you going to make that kind of money in an area where the housing prices, let's say, are $300,000 or less?
Yeah.
I think this is amazing. This is really cool. Associates, $18 to $20 an hour. Like that's.
And you can get all of the stuff you need for all your living. You can do all your shopping at Buc-ee's if you work for them. It's genius.
Yeah, it's super smart.
Kind of genius.
PTO. They have PTO.
Ooh, 401k match.
Yeah. They offer insurance.
Yeah.
I do think. Well,
it's
I do think there's still a migration to Texas, and this shows, you know, the Austin proper, I think, still has affordability issues. But when I think about a Bastrop or like the areas around Buc-ee's, which is further away from the metropolitan, I could see the potential growth there because of the affordability.
So Buc-ee's is a gas station. Remember, I was talking about their vertical. They're just genius at marketing. They have billboards all along the major highways, and then they have Tesla chargers at almost every single Buc-ee's. And so people that need to stop to charge, first off, they put it really far away from the gas station. So now you have to walk up to the gas station. By the time you're in there using the bathroom, grabbing some stuff, and you get out, your car is going to be fully charged. But they're getting all types of people that need to stop to go here. It's very genius. If you're on a road trip in Texas, you'll stop at Buc-ee's.
That's a really good point. No, yeah.
How does that impact Austin? So like you said, JJ, that really does impact the Texas market outside of Greater Austin, because there are a lot of Buc-ee's now. They just announced another one in San Antonio. They're putting them all over. I think San Marcos, actually. So they're putting them all over. So it's a great company that's doing good things for the state of Texas, which will impact Austin's home prices.
Well, here's an interesting dynamic. What's also on the outskirts of Austin, and in regards to the new presidency, and we talk about it a lot. We got like Tesla, right? So if you go to East, you have Del Valley, the Tesla factory. You go south of that, you got Bastrop with the Buc-ee's.
Yeah.
Do you think the new administration is going to pump in more tech economic forces into Austin, which will affect real estate?
Dude, check this out. Listen to this. You have, and this is all opinionated, arguable information, right? But you have essentially the world's richest man that has multiple business bases of operations in Austin, Texas, and arguably the world's most powerful man today. And they're like besties in the moment. So one makes the other one upset or whatever in a measuring contest. Never. It doesn't matter. Point is, it still affects Austin. It impacts what is going to be, I feel like it can impact what is going to be happening in Austin, right? So a lot of car manufacturing has relied on government incentives. Okay, so if the government incentives are gone, how does that affect the Tesla plant? It almost doesn't. The Tesla factory. But a lot of the other manufacturers that aren't even built here anyway, it's going to impact them. So all that does is strengthen the community around Austin being the number one car manufacturer company in the United States or in the world or whatever the number is. So it's like those are the little things that become the big things. And talking about sustainable energy, it doesn't matter if it's like, you know, if it's dirty energy or how it's like, it matters, but it's not about that so much as what does that do to the location around us? So Tesla is also a leading AI and energy provider. So if you have both of those and it's being built here in Austin, does that now mean that Austin is becoming a hub, more of a hub for AI, for manufacturing, and for robotics? That's the kind of stuff where, and solar energy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is Samsung open yet?
It's still.
I don't think so. No.
Being put together, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the whole idea that I thought Elon was hanging with Trump is because he wanted less regulations on his innovation. So
if he has less regulation, then that comes with less government incentives. If there's less government incentives, Tesla wins more than other companies. So that could be the play. Right?
Yeah.
Because how many of the other major companies, GM, Ford, and all those had to, GM got bought out anyway, but like had to get a bailout from the government.
Like literally
all these 100-year companies had to get bailouts.
American auto,
except for Tesla.
Yeah.
So Tesla is the only American auto manufacturer that I know of that hasn't had a bailout. but it's also new and
It's
untested.
new.
But it's built
Okay,
here. So again, it all goes back to it's here.
So the
Space
bailout.
race. The CEO
What?
is here. The
Okay,
space race.
so the bailout happened.
All
Was
the
that in
government
2011?
contracts. Here. That was one of them. I think there was 2012. That was another one. 2012.
That was
Probably there were multiples. There were multiples. There's probably another one during the pandemic, for all I know. Cars were having a hard time too. So yeah, lots of obviously we have to check those numbers. If anybody knows those and you're watching this, please leave them in the comments. But if you have dates for the government bailouts for the auto industry, or anything that we're talking about, please add that. That's all good information to validate.
Is there anything in the comments currently?
No, but we don't have a lot watching live because we didn't push it out like we normally do. That's okay.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Reminder,
what folks
we do this very often. So if you're interested in being part of the podcast live, we would love to, have these conversations and, include the things that matter to the people that are watching. So
No, I super love it when people leave comments, as long as they're not trolly. Generally speaking, it's interesting to see
I'm fine
different
with trolls.
perspectives. Yeah, I prefer to troll them back.
All right, what else we have?
Yeah, what have you guys heard? Because I know we all work with kind of a wide variety of different people and clients. What are your clients saying as far as what they think is going to happen?
JJ?
I'm still following up with people from last year that said they're going to wait till this year because they like kicking this can down the road. So I think that's a big thing. And what's interesting, here's a story, AP here. 2024 U.S. home sales hit lowest level in nearly 30 years with ownership increasingly out of reach. So there's still, that's what I mean by the lull. The amount of transactions are at a 30-year low. And I know it's pent up. I mean, all these people at some point are going to do something, but I'm still kind of following up from the people that are kicking the can down the road. Unless they have to. There's some motivated people that have to do what they got to do, and some people are still on the fence.
Ian, you had quite the expression. Share.
I feel like there are a couple camps. There's a camp that says, I want to own a home, period. How do I make it happen? And then there's a camp that says, I'll never be able to own a home. Should I even try?
Right.
That's kind of the dichotomy that I'm experiencing in conversations with people. And so the answer is different for both camps. The first one is, why do you want to own a home and what's your budget? Because most of the people that say, I want to own a home, they're still particular in what they want to own. It needs to be a ranch. It has to have 10 acres or more. I don't want to pay property taxes, all that sort of stuff. And then on the other side, it's I'll never own a home. It's like, yeah, but you could. It's just not the home that you want.
Yes.
Or you might have to drive a little ways. Not a little ways, a lot of ways. I've made that sacrifice. I had to do it. JJ, you had to do it.
Yeah.
Daphne, I know you had to do it. Like, if you want to have a home, it's hard. It's for a lot of people. It's very difficult to get that to happen the first time. But then as you evolve and you realize that you can leverage that home to help you buy another, that realization almost doesn't hit until you do it.
Yep.
And now, just to add to this, remember, I want to say 2020 NAR statistics were 50% of realtors did not own their own home. I was actually just talking to one of my real estate mentors, my investor mentors, and he goes, I bet that number's gone up to 75%. Realtors that got in the business so they can make money to be able to buy a home, but have never gone through the process themselves to own a home.
I will say there was nothing more enlightening in my career than after I bought my first home. It was earlier on in my career, but after I did that, the way that I was able to speak to clients was completely different. And the level of like empathy and understanding and explanation is like out of this world. And then after I started remodeling houses, it was like, you don't need an inspection. I got you. No, not really. But no, but I mean, we can approach the situation from a level of competency that you just don't get from reading a book or watching videos or studying on it. Like you do it, then you figure it out.
Did
That's
y'all
what I have
hear
to say.
about? Yeah. Did y'all hear about the giant data center coming to Texas from IBM, OpenAI, and Oracle?
No,
No.
enlighten us.
So when like the three richest companies get in a room, walk into a bar together, I guess is the joke. You have Larry Ellison from Oracle, and then Sam Altman from OpenAI. I forget who the third person was, but IBM. They're putting a data center. It was announced by President Trump. They're putting a data center in Texas. I don't remember where, but it's already underway. It's like $500 billion investment into AI. So again, this is Texas, into AI to make sure that America is the powerhouse for artificial intelligence. So you already have Tesla that has an AI that a lot of people don't count, even though it's one of the most powerful AIs according to some people. Then you have
powerful.
Samsung that has AI like a really powerful. Then you have Apple that's here. And then you have OpenAI that's here. Which at the end of the day, the only concern in my head for people is how that impacts people's incomes so that they can afford real estate, so they can continue to do the things that they want to do, which part of that is real estate, right? But it's good to know that it came to Texas. But there are a couple other little satellites that are going to different places in the United States, and so that'll impact jobs. Like there's one in Detroit. It's going to be 200,000 jobs.
What is it?
I have no idea.
An AI center?
Let me get the data. But yeah, I think it's tied to this project.
Okay. You know what was interesting? Sorry, you were talking about 200,000 jobs coming to Detroit. Something I remember during the pandemic or during the last Trump administration, Trump would talk a lot about how the unemployment rate was way down. And it'll be interesting to see what happens this time around. And I think it's interesting that employment was so high during the pandemic, because everything was shut down. And
Yeah.
now things are open, and it seems like a lot of companies, more like service industry companies, are having a tough time finding people to work there.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
A lot of people, I think, supplemented their income by doing things like Favor and DoorDash,
yeah.
right? Uber and Lyft. And now we have Waymo driving cars around by themselves with nobody in it, picking people up.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about with how it impacts the things that we're able to do, like the skills that people have today to be able to make their money tomorrow. Real estate, you will always need a place to live. I don't care where you are in the United States, you always want a place to live, and you'll always need to find a way to make that happen. Find the income to make that happen.
That's correct. Are you looking up some data?
Looks like I have this this thing. I'm going to share it in the chat so you can pull it. I'll just share it. I'll just share the
share it.
The screen.
You had research face. You were looking at the screen all intently.
Yeah.
That's it looks like it might be Abilene on one of the first projects. This Stargate.
So this is one of them. OpenAI, SoftBank. I thought it was IBM. SoftBank, Japanese company, and Oracle. SoftBank, don't they own like? It's not.
It's not SoFi.
It's not Chase. It's some. No, they might be in bed with SoFi. That's Samsung, right?
Okay.
So OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle. Stargate. That's what it's called. Stargate. With Sam Altman and Larry Ellison. Okay. So what's so 500 billion over the next 4 years.
I think
100,000 jobs for this one. So now imagine, this is basically, you ever been in a company where they're like, hey, train all these new employees to do the thing that you're doing, and you're like, but if I do that, then they'll be able to take my job. You ever been in that situation?
I have not, but I could understand why that would be utter crap.
Right? And that's kind of what I feel like this is. Oh, this is terrible.
Yeah.
100 billion immediately. Musk got mad, something. It's already being built, blah, blah, blah. So that's one. That's a big one. And then I didn't find the Detroit one, but I'll find that too. So I would look that up. Stargate. Big one. In Texas. They did say Texas. That was the original point of the conversation. And so how does that affect the jobs around here? So I don't know where Stargate is in Texas. Let's find that out.
It says 10 data centers for the project were already under construction in Texas. I read Abilene somewhere.
Yeah, you were saying. I think it's interesting that they call it Stargate because Musk has Starlink in Bastrop.
Yeah, that was kind of confusing.
Yeah.
Well,
interesting to see what happens.
That's a whole other part of the conversation is the Department of Government Efficiency, aka Doge, because Musk is in Trump's ear.
Yes.
In this article, it looks like he doesn't. He's kind of taking digs at SoftBank.
Oh, everybody's taking digs at everybody. I'm not kidding. Politics. This is a measuring contest.
That's politics. Yeah. I think.
Yeah, and all I want is for people that are looking to buy a house to be able to afford a house, and people that are putting in the work to be able to earn the things that their goals, whatever their goals are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Another thing too, kind of talking about Musk and then period, comma. I feel like I read this that Trump signed an executive order to reverse something to do with the electric vehicle initiative that had been put in place by the Biden administration, so that we could basically get fossil fuel, basically would start pumping gas again more aggressively to make the U.S. a gas-centered, not centered, but so that it would add to the economy, basically. So we would not be going all electric. Have you guys heard about that?
Ian? It's yeah, that's one of those things where it's interesting because America has had the ability and the oil reserves forever. I mean, I don't know if forever is the word, but we have been able to sustain ourselves for the longest time. And then there was this whole war in Iraq, and it was all just political. And at the end of the day, we as a country have the ability to sustain ourselves in a bunch of different ways, energy sector included.
Yes.
Windmills, solar farms, we have plenty of land for that, but also oil. And yes, those were being shut down for the according to the parties that were shutting it down for the betterment of the environment. And I think today it's just understanding, one, how can we make sure that it's clean-ish, as clean as possible, right? And two, how does it help with jobs, right? And three, is it something that we can sell GDP back to other countries that need it, right? Because that was the whole thing with the Middle East, is like we were getting our oil at whatever price that was agreed upon, but it was a good excuse for a trade. Everything that we do is a good excuse for a trade. So what are we trading? What do we have to trade? Or can we just make it ourselves and not have to trade?
Mm-hmm. My wheels are turning. That's why there's silence.
And then how does that affect jobs, which affects the people being able to buy houses?
Yep, definitely. So if there's, yeah, so this is Texas more than Austin, but if the oil industry makes a tremendous comeback, not that they ever went away. Gas prices are still holding pretty steady. Yeah.
So just think about where that hits. Abilene, Houston, There are a lot of
Right.
places in West
Dallas.
Texas, Lubbock. There are a
Yep.
lot of places that this might actually be a boon for Texas. What does that do for Austin? So Austin has a lot of tech money. Do they have a lot of oil money? Were there a
I
lot
do
of people that
not.
relocated from let's say Houston to Austin because they saw opportunities to leverage some of the oil money in tech? This creates this migrational pattern and can impact the amount of money that's coming into Austin. I don't know.
Have you
There's a
guys?
lot to it.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. It's like this is not so Austin specific, but definitely in other parts of Texas potentially.
But the number one migratory spots are from other cities in Texas to Austin, to and from. Because it's easy to go from Houston to Austin or Dallas to Austin. It's easy to do that versus going to Florida or Colorado or
Mhm.
Bay Area. So even though it's not in Austin, these cities, that's what makes Austin so special, is that we're in between all of these major cities that are hubs for all of these massive conglomerate corporations, which bring
Mhm.
in tons of jobs. Austin's in the center of it, and it's the capital still, right? So if somebody from the oil world wants to lobby, they have to come here to do it. They have to spend time in
Generally, I still
Austin.
think the oil people are in Houston and Dallas. Like,
Yeah.
I don't feel the
Sure,
oil
Yeah.
money as much. It says right here,
sure.
electric and hybrid vehicle purchases made up a record 20% of new car sales in the last year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Projected to go higher. They're thinking by 2030, 1 in
Well,
4 new passenger cars sold will be electric
to your
vehicles.
to your point, Daphne, is there were a lot of companies that originally said, well, we're going to stop making, we're mandated to stop making gas powered vehicles by 2030, I think it was.
It was.
But
Yep.
so if
That was
that's
it.
undone, now you have companies like Ford. Okay. They had the Mustang. Remember when they came out with the Mustang
Yeah.
electric vehicle and everybody's
The
like, that's
G
not a
something.
Mustang?
Yep.
Well, now they can go back and make their gas powered Mustang and then have an electric vehicle and do both. Why not?
Yeah.
The question is, are the people that buying Mustangs, do they want a fast car or do they want a loud car? Because Mustang's no longer a fast car
It's
when you have
not,
electric
right?
vehicles.
It's
It's
true.
not. Nothing's fast anymore, or very few things are fast. Like it's a 1% thing that's fast anymore. Electric cars are faster than my motorcycles have been. Like they're
Yeah. Oh,
fast.
for sure. For sure. I saw this
So now you just want a
funny.
loud car.
Hold on. I found this funny meme a while ago, and I want to bring it up and see.
Well, while you're looking that up, it's not just about being a loud car. It is also about the simplicity, you being able to work on it yourself, the freedom to not be tied to any electrical or fewer electrical systems. I want to be clear that I really understand. I do enjoy cars, but then it goes back to the manufacturing. Who's building these cars? Those, used to be built by hand. Teslas are just stamped. It's like, how is it American manufacturing when it's just machines that are stamping it and people are in there making sure that the machines are working? There's so
Okay.
much to that.
I found it. I hope you guys can see it. It says Tesla owner on a roller coaster, and everybody's freaking out. The Tesla driver's like,
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic.
I feel like
That's
this is
really good.
accurate. Yeah. Any
Yeah.
like speed bumps, it's like, whatever. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But there we go.
What else?
Oh,
Okay.
it looks-
What haven't we talked about? So we've talked a lot about like what Trump is doing and how that might impact us. So let's get to actual predictions. That's what we
Makes me
titled the
nervous.
episode. We got to
I
give people what
know.
they. Okay.
I
Okay.
know. Got to pay the people that
Interest
want
rates,
what
at
we
least. What do
promise.
you think about interest rates?
Absolutely. I'll go first. I think interest rates are going to kind of hold at least. Yeah. I mean, this year, I don't, because any and all fluctuations that we've seen for mortgage interest rates, let me specify, they've gone up a little, down a little, up a little, down. So, I mean, it's not like we're seeing these massive swings. And I know because the pandemic was literally just a couple of years ago, people are expecting this massive drop that we're going to get, maybe not to 2 or 3%, but they're fully expecting these interest rates to drop down to like 4%. And that's just not realistic.
Yeah,
JJ, what are you thinking?
I agree with Daphne. I think, and also looking at the local market again with Austin's affordability issues. I don't necessarily know if it's great to have lower interest rates because then we're going to have that influx in buyer demand.
Yeah.
Uh, I have some stats here from National Association of Realtors.
From
Mm.
what year?
Their predictions
Are they
Oh,
still
hit it.
relevant? Is
Wait,
it
wait, wait. Let
NARC?
me, yeah, let me
for
share mine and
2025 and
then pull
26.
it up. Let me share and then pull it up. Okay, so I think that interest rates, the sweet spot for Austin, I know this is a federal thing, but I think the sweet spot for Austin would be 4.5%.
Yeah, I think yeah, I would agree with
That
that.
would be a reasonable sweet spot for Austin to grow, but not run out of housing. I don't think that we're going to get there in 2025. I think the best we will do in 2025 will be mid fives.
Are
And
you talking
that's
about
if mid 5% for the mortgage interest rate.
interest rate?
It's only interest rates. I think
Okay.
that's the best we could possibly hope for. But we will be lucky if we're doing that. I think 6
Yeah.
is probably where it's going
Yeah.
to stay for
I don't
this
know
year.
about seeing a 5.
Okay. If for
For
some
conventional.
Sure. Okay. So if for some reason the real estate gods decide to bring down the interest rates to 5.5%, if you had to guess, no, I'm not holding you to it. When do you think that would happen?
You said 5%?
The 5.5. Yeah, you said the best we could probably do would be 5.5. When would that happen,
This
if
year?
at all?
I actually think that depends on the Department of Government Efficiency. Honestly, I think that's going to
Doge?
be an impact. Yeah, I think that's going to be a factor in how the Fed determines our interest rates. I really do.
I
I
don't
don't know if
think
it's
it's
good or
gonna
bad.
happen this year.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Everybody, you have so many people that are like, it's all just smoke and mirrors. But there were wasn't it like hundreds of executive orders on day one that
Yeah, it was like
President
250 or
Trump was in
something.
office? Like those are like we haven't felt the effects of that yet. We probably won't until halfway through the year, beginning of next year.
Yeah. There's a bit of a delayed effect in all of
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. So that's when that's all going to hit. The crap's going to hit the fan. And I think that the interest rates and the employment and the tariffs and all of that stuff that was put into place and that's continuously being put into place and adjusted as we're going through the year, and we forgot that these things happened, is going to start really impacting people's lives, as well as all the advances in technology and so many other things that we're focused on, when all most people want is to just buy a house and be happy.
Yeah, literally. They just want like the security and the ability to
Yeah.
get that American dream that we've all been raised to have.
Well, that's the other question: is are people in Gen Z raised to think that's the dream? JJ, what's
Interesting
yours? What
question.
was the NAR thing?
All right. National Association of Realtors forecast a 9% increase in existing home sales for 2025 and
Yeah,
13% for 2026.
I love it.
Okay.
So I think we've said this multiple times in this podcast that 2025 will be a better year than 2024 for real estate sales volume. That doesn't mean it's going to hit Austin.
That doesn't mean it. Yeah, I do agree with that. I think Austin still has some cooling off to do. I think so. It's gotten really crazy. I do think there is a lot of employment opportunity though. So, those things are still gonna, and then again, leaving the metropolitan, I think there's more room for, like this Bastrop or Leander or Georgetown. I think those areas might have some lofty growth.
I have a different thought on that. Daphne, what do you think about
As far
Austin based on the NAR numbers?
Existing home sales.
I'm with you guys. I was going to say at the beginning of this podcast that JJ said that we're in a bubble. We totally are. It almost feels like whatever the US is doing, Austin is not. So when the pandemic hit and everything was dormant, people were freaking out. They thought it was going to be a zombie apocalypse, etc. Austin was booming. And now other parts of the country seem to be popping. Just like you said, Ian, Chicago is doing really well. California, believe it or not, it's still really like a lot of the parts that are not affected by the wildfires tend to be doing really well. I know parts of the Midwest are doing really well as far as the housing market goes. And Austin has basically flatlined. It's kind of making a comeback, but whatever the rest of the US is doing, we are not.
Do you have any predictions on existing home sales like this year?
Yeah, I think it'll be better. I think 25 will definitely be stronger and will be better. I think it's such a strong contrast between last year and this year simply because 2024 was an election year and notoriously, regardless what side comes out
Right.
ahead,
Right.
everything flatlines. So it's like, yeah, it was pretty dead last year, but it was mostly because of an election year. And also Texas in general being such a strong Republican state, some of that is going to trickle down into Austin, regardless of where you stand.
That's fair.
I'm really a little interested in why you said what you said, JJ, because I think that you're going to have a lot of people that are moving to deal with the wildfires and the rebuilding in California. And the question is, how many people are, let's say they lost their homes there, they get an insurance payout, let's just hypothetically say, where would they move?
I feel like people are going to put a cowboy hat on and go for acreage because they've never seen that before.
Maybe.
There
This
you
is
go.
what happened during
Maybe.
the pandemic. This is what happened during the pandemic, right? And so I feel like it's the exchange of properties that has always kept Austin in kind of like the target area for people. It's like Austin is one, the Austin area. Whenever I say Austin, for most people, I'm talking about the greater Austin area.
We'll say like
It
very
is an
central Texas.
attractive place for a lot of people. And it was like this hidden gem for such a long time. And that's why the real estate was always so stable.
Yeah.
But then a bunch of people heard about it. And then they were like, hey, you can work and live anywhere you want. And everybody's like, oh, Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Even the companies were like, Austin's talented. They have a lot of talent.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of other companies moving there. Why don't we go there? Okay.
Totally. And tax breaks.
Yeah.
Well, differences in taxes. It's not breaks, right? Like if you're not paying any property taxes, or sorry, employment taxes, you're still going to get hit with property taxes and toll fees if you're driving.
Well, I mean, I'm saying
But
for like the companies that
The
came
companies. There's a lot
oh
of
yeah, yeah.
incentives.
Oh yeah. And for the companies, right. Because the companies are thinking about their bottom line and then their talent acquisition.
here. Totally.
Yeah, it's I think Austin's actually going to do better. Okay, so that's my prediction. I think Austin will be better by the end of 25. Will do better than 9% sales increase for 2025.
Yeah.
So NAR says 9%. I'm going to go with will probably do 12-ish percent in 2025 because you're going to have, even if it's the sales of people leaving
Mm-hmm.
or exchanging information, like exchanging location, migrations. I still think Austin is going to get an improvement, especially if the interest rates drop to, let's say, 5.5%, 6%.
I will say we probably had the most pent up demand because
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
so flat,
We
right?
have so much
I
pent
just
up demand.
don't know when it's gonna bust through.
Well, that's it. If all of a sudden, you're not paying taxes on tips, I think you are paying taxes on tips now, where that sucks, and that changes things, right? Then the people that are working for those types of jobs will have to get a different job. They go get a different job. Now they're working at Buc-ee's. Now they got to buy a house. See?
Yep. I think 25 will definitely be a better year as far as like actual home sales go in Austin. And I think it's still going to be, I also still think it's going to stay relatively swayed towards a buyer's market. Maybe not as strong as it has been the last year, but I'm not anticipating multiple offers the way we saw them before, hopefully never again. But if we get multiple offers, we're probably looking at like 2, maybe 3, maybe 10,000 over the asking price. And that's probably about it. We're not looking at even 50,000 over asking. I don't see that happening.
Do either of you know where the strength and concentration is for the upcoming graduates from UT?
What does that question mean? I don't know what that means.
What do you mean?
So what is the focus, the primary focus for UT this year? People that are graduating are known as great X, great doctors, great engineers, great AI specialists, great what? I'm asking this because now you have this influx of Ivy League jobs here
Yeah.
in Austin specifically. And because remember, it was always Austin and Texas A&M had such a huge concentration of I'll call them highly sought after people. So if they live here, they build, maybe there's accidental or on purpose pregnancies. Maybe there's relationships that start. Maybe there's all sorts of things that cause people to stay in a place. That is such a big impact, has such a big impact on why people live in an area. They're graduating from college. They've been here for the last 4 years. They've made all these friendships.
Yeah.
They've got jobs that availability here. They might want to go somewhere else, but now you have a huge AI data center and a couple other things. How do we hold on to the people that are graduating? And I think that's what UT has been focusing on.
I think there's a combination, like a relationship with the
Matthew
local
McConaughey,
companies, the local companies and the universities. Like they,
of course, it would
right?
be foolish to not.
So there's tech right there. That tech
Yeah,
relationship.
but that's tech. What I'm saying is, what's the strength when someone says, "I want my kids," or somebody that says, "I want to go to UT"? Why are they saying that? Because that's a way to predict the outcome of what can happen in Austin tomorrow.
That's what I'm saying. I think
one way.
It's more related. Like I would send somebody to Stanford because of Silicon Valley, that type of thing.
Right. Meet all the people that are going to be in Silicon Valley. That makes sense.
Maybe like NYU for finance or something.
Sure. What is Austin? What is UT today? Because it's different today than it was 5 years ago.
Yeah, definitely.
That's why I'm asking, what is today? What is the concentration powerhouse for UT today?
It is known for the research, academics, and athletics.
Football.
Okay. Yeah. So we've got that one dude that's at UT that's good at football. Okay. What else?
Okay. So Austin's leading research universities with many research centers and units. And I've heard this before too. It's like computer science and research technology, basically, is what it comes down to. We've talked about this before, I feel like. This conversation is very familiar.
It's important for the prediction of where we think Austin's going to go.
Sure.
Right? Sure. Somebody getting out of school, if they're getting out of medical school, the first thing doctors do is buy a house, right? They get an office and then they get a house. Like they're not leasing apartments the same way that most Americans are. It's just not how they operate, right?
That's true.
So that's why I'm asking, who are we producing here in Austin? And that will give us an insight to who we're able to retain.
Because I think even in the 70s, there was like an IBM relationship.
IBM left though.
Computer.
There was. IBM left.
They did?
And then Oracle left. Oracle's not here anymore either. Remember?
Yeah, they are. They're still here. They moved the
headquarters.
No. That like building. Headquarters and stuff.
Headquarters. Yeah. Like they have a facility here, but the Google, the sale building, they were like, nah, we don't need that. Facebook, they got rid of their big, like all these companies that were tech companies that were, they heard Austin was a hot spot. They started to invest and they were like, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
I know.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
It's a lot. Yeah. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah. See you later. I don't know. I think it's whether companies coming or going. I think that's just the ebbs and flows of business and like these societies that we're in. Things come and go all the time. And there was so much buzz around Austin for a long time. I think it made sense for a lot of these big companies to at least give it a try. And I think once they realized maybe it was not what people were predicting, then obviously they packed up their little bags and went elsewhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now the people that are here that have homes can make decisions with more options.
Yeah.
Right? If you have a home, might take a little longer to sell, but you can actually choose what you want,
Yep.
right?
Yes,
Yep.
So
absolutely.
I am still, as much as it may not sound this way, I'm still bullish and excited about Austin, the area and the market. And I'm looking forward to 2025 for sure. I really am.
Yeah. I'm
Me
long-term bullish,
too.
and I do think because of the pent-up demand,
Yeah.
if you're on the fence, you should definitely look into it.
Well, and another part about the college thing is most people aren't buying, like the average age for a person buying a home right now is like 38 or something, their
Yeah.
first home.
Zach,
So
blown
it's
out.
not direct to the college. The college is like more of a 10-year prediction,
It's funny.
right?
I was talking actually to a past client, and we went and met for coffee, and we were talking about his first home. And then he was telling me, he goes, I see some of these people buying their first homes. They're like these like $1 million homes in the middle of town, blah, blah, blah. He goes, do you see a lot of that? And I was like, yeah, because they're literally nearly 40 and they've had over a decade for them and their spouse to save up money. And yeah, so they have a big
Yep.
down payment. They're well into their career. So yeah, this first time home buyer buying $1 million house is like, yeah, that's just normal now.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. My buddy in Toronto, he's like, yeah, everything here is 2.5. Everything decent is 2.5 million. Like those are just regular prices. I was like,
Yeah, absolutely. They really
what
are.
happens if that becomes the 51st state? Oh my gosh. That's another conversation. Anyways, conversation for another day.
Different. I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
anytime soon.
How does it affect our national home prices? Right? Because then it becomes part of our nation. All the averages, all the numbers get skewed.
That they do.
Love it.
On that note, we think 2025 is going to be a better year. I personally believe that 25 is still going to be a buyer's market, and buyers are still going to have plenty of opportunity, along with plenty of opportunity as well in the job market. I'm very optimistic, cautiously and realistically so. How about you guys? Any final thoughts? No.
I agree with you. Everything you said.
Yeah.
Everything you said, JJ.
Talk to one of us. I think this is going to be a good year. More confidence in the politics. At least we know what's ahead of us to a degree.
Yeah, we know what's ahead of us.
Yeah, a bunch of erratic, chaotic noise that ends up shaking up the real estate market, which is good for realtors, good for investors, good for buyers and sellers at the end of the day. Movement is good.
Movement.
All right, y'all. Take care.
Guys. All
Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.